Thank you, Rebecca. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome everyone to Caltrans District 11's. As Rebecca mentioned, this is our fourth Prepare for the Fair workshop. Again, my name is Maria Ibarra. I'm the Small Business Manager here at Caltrans District 11. And I wanted to take you through a little bit about why we're doing this workshop. So the intent of this workshop is to prepare you, the vendor, the firm, a business, in networking and gaining the tools and resources you will need to successfully work with partner agencies, prime contractors, and our district purchasers during our 20th annual Procurement and Resource Fair. So just last year, our Procurement and Resource Fair had about 71 exhibiting agencies, had about 172 program exhibitors and volunteers, and we welcomed 463 attendees. So let me take you really a long ways back, which is about 19 years. In the last 19 years, I want to talk about how successful our fair has been. We have had a total of approximately over 8,000 attendees and spent a total of 7.3 million, which meant on average we have 471 attendees and spent about 385,000 a year on the small businesses that come to our Procurement and Resource Fair. So that's huge, and that's only for Caltrans District 11. We have many exhibitors this year, and I'll take you through that. We have a slide for you to check out all the exhibitors that will be at the fair exhibiting, networking with you. So if you have not done so already, let me see if we can put the slide in. I'm going to pause. If you haven't done so, we'd like to encourage you to register to our Procurement and Resource Fair using the link or the QR code provided on the screen. And I'll pause if you want to do that because it's really important. I don't want you to forget to go ahead and register. Okay. On to our next slide. So in today's workshop, I'll talk more about the details of the upcoming Procurement and Resource Fair, and then we'll go through all our wonderful guest speakers today from Small Business Development Centers, BDC, Apex Accelerator, Caltrans Division of Procurement and Contracts, Department of General Services, our Caltrans Office of Civil Rights, and our very own Administration Resources Unit. So finally, at the end of our presenters, we will circle back with Rebecca, who's our small business liaison, one of our small business liaisons, who will be providing our closing remarks. So why don't we go ahead and jump right in to talk a little bit more about the important details and logistics of our fair. So as mentioned, our fair, this is our 20th annual fair. And we will have this fair has always been in partnership with our San Diego Public Agency Consortium. And again, this is, I believe, our third year having it at our courtyard here at the district. And we're conveniently located next to the Old Town Transit Center, so attendees are encouraged to use public transportation. We also have, if you do decide to drive, we have free parking that's available on site, and you can see that on the screen there. There's a map that's the bigger part of our parking space is the north side of our campus. And let me see, we'll go ahead, Michaela, on our next slide. So the reason why we ask you to register now is to make things easier for you once you get to the event. So everyone will be asked to, if they've already registered, and if not, we'll take you through the registration, and that could take a few minutes. So once you're inside the campus, you will be able to connect with our exhibitors right from the start. We will have, I wanted to mention too, that our Caltrans Chief Deputy Director will be here for opening remarks. So we will gather everyone that's already here right at 9 o'clock. We will gather in the middle of the courtyard to hear the Chief Deputy speak, and also our District 11 Director to provide the opening remarks. And once that's done, you are free to go and meet and network. And I do encourage you to take a map. The map will tell you who's going to be exhibiting and where they are at the courtyard. So I really highly suggest you grab a map when you walk in. So on your screen here, it's a little, if you want to make it bigger, you can. But here's a list of our exhibitors, and I won't mention all of it, but I do want to highlight some of our purchasers from our divisions, our admin, our maintenance, corridors, engineering, design, environmental, traffic, construction, planning, and local assistance, right-of-way, and land surveys. We also have the fair will also feature exhibitors from our district programs such as Construction Mentor Protege Program, our Cal Mentor Program, and our Innovation Committee. So you will also have a chance to meet members of our public agency consortium that I mentioned, and then learn about their upcoming opportunities. And lastly, we will also have the chairs of our construction and professional services committees who will exhibit on behalf of the Caltrans District 11 Local Small Business Council. So a little bit about the Small Business Council that we have here. The council was established to promote the effective implementation of federal and state requirements. And they really is a group that assists with issues relating to participation in Caltrans contracts. So really encourage you to stop by their booth to learn about the council and how to get involved and hear about how it is and any issues that we may have as a small business when you're contracting or procuring for with the state. So I'm going to pause to see if you have initial questions before we move forward with our presenters. So I'm going to pause to see if you have any questions about the logistics, anything about the fair that you'd like to know. Okay. All right, well, let's right into our presenters. Now that you have an idea of what to expect, I'd like to bring out Cheryl Brown from Salt Small Business Development Center, SBDC, to talk to you about services they provide and give you some best tips on getting into government contracting. Welcome, Cheryl.
Good morning, and good morning, everybody. This is a great program. It's so funny when you go to these various events, we often get questions like, okay, well, what should I bring? What do I say? And this is a great opportunity for those of you in attendance to get some ideas as far as what you need to be prepared. My name is Cheryl Brown. I'm the director of the North San Diego Small Business Development Center. We are one of 10 service centers here in San Diego and Imperial Valley. We are here to provide you with no-cost support, everything from starting a business to financing a business to government contracting in collaboration with Apex Accelerator, as well as marketing, human resources, technology, commercialization, all at no cost to you. And so as you prepare for this fair, I have a slide that says, who is Caltrans? But you don't really need to know who Caltrans is because they're the ones that are presenting it. But I did want to bring into an account of, what do some of these agencies buy? This is one of the larger events here in San Diego. And one of the things I want to point out is when you hear the word contractor, that usually we think about construction. But in this environment with government contracting, whatever you sell, whether it's beams, bullets, pencils, concrete, plumbing, whatever it might be, you are a contractor. So as you're going through today's training, if you hear the word contractor, don't think of it as construction. Think of it as any product or service looking to sell to the government. Next slide, please. So what does Caltrans buy? What does Caltrans buy? What do these agencies buy? So you're going to have, in this particular event, not only do you have Caltrans, but you also are going to have this Department of General Services, State of California, North County Transit District, the Port Authority, I mean, a number of different agencies. And let me tell you something. They literally buy everything from beans to bullets. In the 17 years that I have been with this program, I think there's only been one thing that the agencies typically do not buy, and that's SEO services. Because as a government agency, they automatically get the top rankings in Google. But everything from janitorial services to signage to traffic monitoring, transcription services, anything you see that they might need to buy, for office, paper, computers. But my favorite, one of my favorites, is goat herders. I got a little there. If you want to click the button, I got a picture of my goat herders. So a number of years ago, actually at one of these fairs, many, many years ago, actually, I had a gentleman come up to me and say, "Hey, I'm a goat herder." And I was like, okay, I don't really know if that's something that the government buys, but let's do some searching here. Believe it or not, yes, the government buys goat herders. Caltrans buys goat herders because to do weed abatement. And so this gentleman had like one group of goats. I don't know what they call them. Now he has several different groups of goats, and he is just living life. So if you're in an industry that's a little bit more unique, look at it this way. There's not as much competition. There may not be as many opportunities, but there's not as much competition. So no matter what it is that you sell, the government in some way, shape, or form is going to buy. Now, when it comes to doing business with these agencies, we all hear about the certifications. Next slide, please. With this particular event, almost every certification you could possibly look at is going to give you some benefits. But with Caltrans specifically, because Caltrans receives different types of funding sources, they have two distinct programs. One is if the project is being paid for by your state tax dollars, then Caltrans is going to implement or may implement a small business and or a DVBE component. So that's small business, disabled veteran business enterprise. These two certifications are also recognized by the State of California Department of General Services, and I'm sure they're going to go over this a lot more in detail when they do their presentation, so I won't take that time. Now, because Caltrans also receives federal funds, they have a program called the DBE, the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. Please don't panic. If you don't have these right now, it's okay. You don't have to wait to get these before taking advantage and getting to know all of the different presenters and agencies that are going to be presenting at the workshop. But just to kind of give you an idea. The reality of it is, though, next slide, please. The reality is government agencies are not, and prime contractors are not required to work with you. They do have programs in place. They want to work with you, but they're not required to work with you. The certifications mean absolutely nothing unless you can also demonstrate you have the ability to perform and have the best pricing. So if you come in and you're introducing yourself, you don't want to lead with your certifications. You want to lead with what can you do, what have you done, and by the way, we're also certified, Regardless, you do need to be able to demonstrate you have the ability to perform. If all of your projects you've worked on have been, between $50,000 and $100,000, then your ability to perform on $1 million contract may not be feasible at this point. In the past, and I don't know if they're going to be doing it this year, in the past, we have received a number of feedback from small businesses that actually got a contract at this event. They are smaller contracts, but it happens. See, 90% of the contracts, when you combine all of the purchasing that's going to be going on across all the different agencies, about 90% never actually get publicly announced for a variety of reasons. Maybe it's under a certain dollar amount. Maybe it's what we call compelling or unusual urgency. And sometimes these are the projects that are most beneficial to small businesses because they're usually smaller in size. I will tell you, government contracting can be the easiest thing you do. Don't laugh. Because the hardest part about government contracting is simply following the directions. Even when it doesn't make any sense, and I'll tell you right now, usually it doesn't. Make sure you follow directions, and that's one of the things that we're here to do is support you at no cost, is to help you to learn how to follow those directions, even when they don't make any sense, and like I said, they usually won't. But marketing, believe it or not, after following the directions is everything. And this at the event, at the fair, you're going to have an opportunity to market yourself. And you know what they say about first impressions? Yes, they do last a lifetime. Next slide, please. The only way to generate revenue, no matter what it is, no matter what industry you're in, is through marketing. That's it. If you want to make more money, you need to market more. If you want to increase your money or increase your sales, you have to market. And government contracting is no different. With the exception, you do also have to follow the rules. See, next slide, please. Right now, none of these agencies can buy from you. They can't buy from you because they don't even know you exist. That's step one. Now, they won't buy from you if they don't trust that you can perform. So keep that in mind. As you're introducing yourself to the various points of contact at the fair, this is your initial step. You need to let them know that you exist. But then you also need to show them that you can be trusted, that you are going to have their best interest. Next slide, please. There's different stages of marketing, and a lot of times we just want to jump into stage 3. I get it. I'm a small business owner. I want money. I want it yesterday. But before sales and revenues can be generated, before you can get a contract, you have to establish name recognition. The points of contact need to recognize your name. The second stage is open dialogue and building trust. Those two have to happen before you can get a contract in your hot little hands. Introduction, name recognition. This is the stage 1. This is what you'll be accomplishing at the fair. Stage 1, introducing yourself. And then that's just the beginning. Then you have to follow up. Next slide, please. It's going to be super, super simple. If you have access to a pen and a piece of paper right now, or a pencil or whatnot, this is what I want you to write down. Your name, your company name, what you do, a reference to a past project, and an open-ended question. This is your intro. This is it. Short, sweet, to the point. Good morning. My name is Cheryl Brown. I'm with the San Diego and Imperial Valley SBDC Network. We provide no-cost services to the small business community. In the past several years, we've worked with over 3,500 small businesses, resulting in over $1 billion in contracts awarded to those small businesses. What are you currently doing in the areas of procuring your small business support services? That's it. Don't overcomplicate it. That's it. Now, I believe that Brett's going to be talking about, with Apex Accelerate, is going to be talking about the capability statement, I believe. And so that's going to be your kind of your handout. But this is your intro. Short, sweet, to the point. That's it. So next slide, please. So to help you prepare, and I believe that this is going to be recorded, so you'll be able to send it. All you need is your name, your company name, what do you do, a reference to a past project, and an open-ended question. Get that dialogue going. Next slide, please. And practice, practice, practice. You have a little bit of time, so what I'm going to recommend is that you write that down and you memorize it. Memorize it, memorize it, memorize it. Now, this is very uncomfortable. Get your fancy phone, set it up on a table, and hit the record button. Leave the room and walk in and approach your phone while it's recording as if they are the person you're speaking with. And when you can rewatch the video without cringing, you've nailed it. Remember, there's a lot more to just marketing or communication than just verbal. So you want to watch your body language, you want to watch your eye contact, you want to watch, be aware of the tone of voice. This is the most, back in the day, we used to do it, in front of the mirror, right? If you have to do a presentation, you would practice in front of the mirror. That's easy now. Use your phone and record yourself. And make sure you're watching your entrance. Make sure you're watching your eye contact. All of this, it's about making first impressions. So I have a little joke. There's only, when you're doing first impressions, when you're making a first impression, and that's what this is, we're going to remember you for one of two reasons. Either you're an uppercase VIP, very important person, or you're a lowercase VIP, very irritating person. Don't be a lowercase VIP. Practice, practice, practice. And that's it. And then after the fair, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. Keep it simple. Thank you for engaging and entertaining me. I hope you learned a little bit of something, give you some tips on how to introduce yourself. All of the participants have seen this workshop, and so they're going to be waiting for you to do your perfect introduction. Questions?
Hi, Cheryl. We have one question in the chat. Someone asks, what if they don't have any past projects they could talk about? What should they bring up?
Great question. Great question. Well, it is what it is. So talk about your professional experience. I've spent the last 15 years working with so-and-so. It is what it is. Past performance is extremely important, but you've got to start somewhere. So maybe reference something that your company has worked on, or maybe expertise within your company. So if you have X amount of years working in logistics, reference that.
We got one more. What are some of the most memorable ways you've seen a contractor market themselves at the fair?
Great question. By being, believe it or not, by just being nice, honestly. You'd be surprised. I mean, even though, I've seen I guess an easier question would be, what have I seen that has not worked? I've seen contractors, I've seen small businesses approach points of contact and be like, you know what you're doing wrong? Whoa. Being aggressive. Don't take up so much time. It's really tough because there's a lot of people there, and a lot of people want to talk to a lot of people. So you want to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. Because let me tell you something. Most likely, you're not going to get an order at the fair. There are occasions it does happen. But if it doesn't, that's okay. You know when you're going to get the order or going to get the sale is in the follow-up. This is your intro piece. This is, think about dating. You're at the produce section of the grocery store. I don't know why it's always produce, but it is. And you see the hottie across the produce section. You don't go up to them and throw blah, 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 blah. All you're trying to do is get their number. And that's kind of what this is. All you're trying to do is make an introduction and get their contact so you can follow up. So honestly, I have a lot of agencies, buyers are like, you know why we like to work with such and such business? Because you're nice to us. Be nice. These are people. Remember that. Be nice. They're people. And all of these people are required to follow laws. They may not even agree with the law. They don't even need to like the law. But remember, they're people first, and they have a very, very important and difficult job. Try to help make their job easier. That's how you can be successful.
Okay, we have another one, and let me know if you don't understand. I can unmute Patrick. He asks, how do we set up proof of concepts for newer technologies, like personnel tracking systems?
Oh, well, I would recommend getting engaged with our innovative technology centers. We have 2 of them. If you're just getting started, we have one called The Brink, and it's hosted by USD. They will help you to develop your proof of concept. Some agencies also have programs that will provide you with some seed funding to help you to develop the proof of concept. But this is a great opportunity, again, to ask that open-ended question because agencies do like innovative technologies and do like to implement them, but you want to make sure if you're introducing yourself, that's really the open-ended question. You know, that you want to find out whether or not that particular point of contact has a program in place that welcomes or funds or introduces innovative technologies. So that's where that open-ended question. Not all buyers are going to be the right buyer for you. You know, make sure you're finding out what it is that they buy. You know, and that's by asking, don't say, hey, what do you want? I can get it. Don't do that. Big no-no. But say, you know, hey, we're developing this innovative technology that does A, B, and C. What does Caltrans do in the areas of procuring innovative technologies or investing in innovative technologies? And find that out. If they don't, that's okay. Move on to the next.
Okay, just letting you know, Patrick said that they already have a system ready to test in response to your comments.
Oh, then great. Use that as an entryway. You know, I always try to ask the open-ended questions. You know, how would we go about offering our innovative technology for testing? So remember, what you're trying to do at the fair is just find out which points of contact are open to that option. Remember, you're just trying to get the phone number, not get married.
Love it. And Raul asks, can you talk a little more about body language when engaging with people?
Yes. So body language when you're trying to introduce yourself is thinking about how do you look on the other end. How do you look from the audience that you're approaching? And everybody's a little bit different. You may not even realize that you're being aggressive or that your body language is aggressive. Eye contact. What I would recommend again is get your phone, put it on record, and set it up on a table. Leave the room and approach the camera as you're introducing yourself, and do your pitch. You know, everything from eye contact, and that's when you'll really be able to see for yourself if you need to adjust something. You can always, you know, I know that a lot of the resource partners are also willing to, you know, help coach you in that body language component.
Awesome. Okay. Alexander, will we know the names of the people that will be there as procurement officers? Alexander, I'll answer this one, Cheryl. If you're asking if you'll know of their names before the event, no, this is the only opportunity for Caltrans during the year that you're able to talk to our purchasers. So I recommend attending, and then you can get to know their names. For other exhibitors as well, we will not be providing the contact information beforehand. We do have contact information for our public agency partners that you can reach out to the small business team for. But let me know if that doesn't answer your question completely. Next,
yeah, that's what the fair is for you to introduce yourself until you'll learn about them.
Exactly. One-stop shop. Okay. Anand, where I'm not sure I understand your question. Last name Shrikar, if you can resend it, that would be very helpful. You also asked, what is the logistics of the fair? If you weren't here in the beginning of the event, the event is set up that small businesses are typically the attendees of the fair, and we'll have around 70 to 75 exhibitors in attendance that you can network with. You can drop off your capability statements and use all the tools that Cheryl just taught you to kind of market yourself and your business and learn about upcoming procurement opportunities. And then we have another question, I think for you, Cheryl. How can we get our product to be chosen for a pilot? As seeing is believing, and to get it on the aspects list. I think that's what he meant to say.
Yeah, great question. Ask. Because every agency is different. And again, some agencies may have specific programs in place to help develop innovative technologies or to help pilot programs. So this is a great question. That's a great question to ask. Again, your name, your company name, what is your product or service? And then what does it do in this case, because it's a pilot program or an innovative technology, what would we need to do to pilot this innovation with Caltrans, with Department of General Services?
And we'll hear from them soon.
Yes.
We got another one from Max. It is noted that you do not have to work with a prime to get on projects. As a small construction business, what are the requirements to bid on projects?
Ooh, it depends on the agency, depends on the project, depends on the size of the project. So if you're a smaller firm trying to just getting started, yes, and you don't have to always go the subcontractor to a prime. You can go directly to the agency, but it depends on the agency and what their requirements are, what the contract's requirements are. Some agencies do what they call on-call as needed, which are usually really great for small businesses getting their foot in the door, because although the project may be valued at $3-5 million, the task orders or the jobs within the 3-year period are usually smaller, maybe under 100,000. So typically when you're thinking some of the things you want to start preparing for if you're in the construction trades specifically is you need to increase your bonding, which we have an actual bonding series and a bonding program in place. So if you need assistance with that, all at no cost, you'll definitely need to increase your bonding capacity. Also, you'll want to make sure that you have adequate cash flow. So that means that having adequate funding accessible. And then I would say also when it comes to public works in particular, that you become familiar with labor compliance. And we also have a program in place. We actually have an on-demand prevailing wage 101 training, and we're bringing on a specialist to help with labor compliance effective Thursday, August 1st. So if you're a smaller firm, construction trades, don't bite off more than you can chew. Present it as that. Sometimes I always joke, I said, the worst thing that can happen to a small business, you actually bid on a project and win, because now you have to perform. So yeah, if you're just getting started here, you're not going to go after the $1 million project, but you might go after the smaller projects like 50,000, 100,000, and then build that capacity from there. But bonding will definitely be something that you need to work on increasing, because your bonding capacity is going to dictate the size of the contract you're eligible to bid on. But every agency is different, and it's a great follow-up question to ask, such as, hey, when you're following up with the agencies that you've met at the fair, your follow-up question could be, what are your minimum requirements to be eligible for opportunities with fill in the blank?
All right, we'll end with that question, and we will drop SBDC's website link in the chat, so you can also maybe reach out to Cheryl if you have more questions, or schedule that one-on-one with her and her team. Thank you, Cheryl, for that wonderful presentation. We love it when you present. Now I would like to bring Brett Householder to present about Apex Accelerator to discuss more resources offered to you. Brett,
All right,
the
good morning.
mic is yours.
Thank you, Rebecca. And thanks everybody for attending. And we appreciate being involved with both the prepare for the fair, and we will have a presence at the actual fair itself. So I always love presenting after Cheryl because she covers a lot of the things that the Apex Accelerator program does. Obviously, the Small Business Development Center has a wide range of expertise related to running a small business, and Cheryl's focus is specifically on government contracting. But at the Apex Accelerator, we also assist with government contracting, and that's the only thing that we do. So that's kind of our very narrow focus. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And I am going to give you an overview of kind of what our program does and the specific types of assistance we provide, and then we'll talk about a few things related to attending the fair in a couple weeks that can help you get ready. But overall, our program, like I just said, we have one specific mission. We work with small businesses in San Diego, Orange, and Imperial County, and we help them with any questions they have related to government contracting, whether that's all the way up at the top of the food chain at the federal level, or the state of California, or then when we get down to the local agencies. And obviously, the big focus is Caltrans and other local agencies that are going to be at the fair in a couple of weeks. So if you have questions on any of the processes of signing up as a vendor or all the certifications that we can help with, our program is funded specifically to help with those questions. Next slide, please. And I am going to spend a few minutes on this slide because this is the three basic components of how we provide our services. We are funded through a couple of grants, and because of that funding, much like the SBDC, we don't charge any fees for our services. And the way that we deliver our assistance is first through trainings and webinars. So we host a lot of webinars throughout the year where either somebody from our team will present on a specific topic related to government contracting. A few common topics that we present on all the time are, like Cheryl mentioned earlier, we have a workshop specifically for capability statements, and we have a workshop for all the different certifications that are out there. We have one on writing effective proposals. And then we also work with a lot of local agencies and a lot of our sponsors throughout the year to present doing business with specific agencies. So we have a lot of good relationships with members of the Public Agency Consortium, and we host events throughout the year on how specifically to work with those agencies. So on any given week, we're doing probably at least one webinar, and we participate in a lot of other local events like the Caltrans Fair throughout the year. So you start attending a lot of these events, you'll probably get very familiar with our name. And after those events, if you have follow-up questions and you would like to sit down and talk to one of our advisors, I myself am a senior advisor. We have another senior advisor on our team, and then we have a couple of part-time advisors. So between the five of us, we provide one-on-one assistance for our clients. So let's say, for example, you attend our workshop on capability statements and you want to sit down and have a follow-up conversation with one of our advisors, and maybe you put together a draft of that capability statement and you want someone to look it over. You can send that to us. We can review it, offer you some notes, and we can get back together and have a one-on-one appointment to walk through all of the suggestions we have to make that capability statement as effective as it can possibly be. But beyond that, we offer assistance with some of the basic things you're going to have to do, like signing up in all the different vendor databases that agencies require you to have a profile in, or if you're curious about which certifications that you qualify for and how those can help your small business sell to different public agencies, we can assist you with that. So basically, the one-on-one appointments are directed or kind of led by your questions, whatever specific topics you want to talk about. And we are happy to offer those counseling services as often as you need them. We don't have any limit on how often you can set up counseling appointments. Going back to our trainings and our webinars, there's certainly no limit on how many of those you attend of ours. And we actually encourage you to attend as many as possible. And as far as our counseling services go, my opinion is we are much more effective as a team if we work with you on a regular basis. So you're never going to have an appointment where we say, okay, here's all the information we can provide you, and we're going to turn you loose and hope you can figure it out after that. We are available as an ongoing resource as often as you need. And then the third major service we provide, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a few slides, is market research. So if you're just getting started in government contracting, whether you're looking to work with local agencies or all the way, like I said, at the top of the food chain with the federal government, we have some resources we can help you use to determine which agencies purchase what product or service you sell the most often, but probably more importantly than who purchases it the most often, who purchases it in quantities that you are able to handle. Because as a small business, a lot of times you don't have the capacity to go after larger jobs right away. So you have to kind of figure out which agencies are going to be making the smaller purchases that I can handle for now before our business grows and we can start taking on the bigger projects. So we have some resources and some databases we can use to help you do a little bit of homework before you get started. And one thing I wanted to point out specifically as it relates to the procurement fair and any networking event, um, when Cheryl was talking about how to put together that quick introduction, that's really great advice. And then there was one of the questions, I think, in the chat about the most effective way to present yourself at these events, or Cheryl kind of talked about here's some things not to do. One thing I would add to that as it relates to market research is if you're attending a networking event and you're approaching a buyer from an agency, and let's compare two different situations. Let's say I approach them and say, my name's Brett Householder. I have Brett Householder Landscaping. I would love to work with your agency. What do you got for me? That's not the worst introduction in the world. At least they know what I do, but I kind of just put the responsibility on them of tell me what your agency has that my business can work on. Let's compare that to a different example where someone else approaches and says, my name is Cheryl Brown, and I have Cheryl Brown Landscaping. And I noticed that last year your agency purchased this service for landscaping at this location. And I noticed that that is, or maybe that's an older one. Maybe let's say it was 3 years ago, and I noticed that one's going to about to expire. So I know that you have an upcoming opportunity for landscaping. I would really love to specifically talk about that opportunity and how our agency can be a good fit for that specific opportunity. So in those two situations, you have somebody that just kind of walks up and says, what sort of work do you have? And then you have someone that walks up and says, I know of this past purchase you've made. I know it's about to be reopened for bidding again, and we would really be interested in pursuing this one. And here's why we are a good fit for that specific opportunity. So market research can really help you stand out at these types of events because you're going to give yourself a bit of an advantage over someone like me who just approaches them and says, I can work on whatever you got. So I don't want to spend too much time focusing on that specific component of it, but I know that the point of the Prepare for the Fair webinar is to get you ready to have these conversations. So anything you can do to have a little bit of data or a little bit of past projects that those agencies have already worked on, if you are able to talk about those and specifically link how your business can work on those types of opportunities in the future, that will make them remember you a little bit better. Okay, so let's go to the next slide, please. All right, so I'm going to not spend any time on this slide other than to say if you are not located in San Diego, Orange, or Imperial County, there is an Apex Accelerator program somewhere nearby you. The way that we are funded, we have our service areas that we generally have to stick to. So if you're joining us from outside of that area, there's an Apex Accelerator somewhere in the country that will be able to help you. You can go to this national website to find them. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so our funding. This is another slide I'm not going to spend too much time on, but we get roughly half of our funding from the Department of Defense at the federal level. And then the other half of it comes from local sponsors, including a large grant from the state of California. And between those two grants, our program is funded every year, and that enables us to provide our services without charging any fees. I always tell people there is one thing that we ask for as kind of a favor from our clients. Once a quarter, we send out an email that basically asks if our clients have won any contracts as a result of working with our program. And we ask for some very basic details on those contracts, and then we compile those numbers into large totals and break it down by different categories. We will never identify any specific business or any specific contract award unless we get your permission to feature you as a success story. So all of the information that we ask you to report out is going to be put into large aggregated categories to just show the economic impact that our program has. Next slide, please. This is a quick look at some of our local sponsors. I don't have enough time to highlight all of them, but I do always want to point out on this slide that we are hosted at Southwestern College in National City, and they have supported our program for many years with office space and meeting space and equipment. So we're really grateful for the support of Southwestern College. But one other thing to point out about all of these sponsors on this slide is all of the fundraising that we do on a local level, we are able to go to our funding, or our federal funding partners, the Department of Defense, and we're able to get matching dollars. So every dollar of support that we get locally is actually matched federally. So I always tell folks that our sponsors actually give us twice as much as they do because the federal government matches whatever they put in. Next slide, please. This is a real quick look at some of the major categories that I mentioned earlier when we ask for contract awards to be reported. We break them down into broad categories like disadvantaged, veteran-owned, woman-owned, hub zones, etc. And this is just a look at, in the last year, the dollar value of the contract awards that our clients have reported to us. We really, really rely on this data to go back to our funding partners every year and show them the actual economic impact that our program has in our local small business community. So if you work with us and we send you a survey and ask you to report your contract awards, just understand that we're not just being nosy and wanting to know how well our clients are doing. We're actually using that data to go back to our funding partners on a yearly basis to ask them to continue funding our programs so that we can keep providing the economic impact that we do with our clients. Next slide, please. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that we can help with market research, and I don't have enough time today to kind of get into all the different tools that we use to do that. There are some that are publicly available, like websites like USA Spending or the Federal Procurement Data System. Those are available for anybody to go take a look at anytime they want, but we also pay subscriptions to a couple of other databases that compile historic contract award data. So when you're talking about all the different pieces on this slide, like knowing what agencies buy your products and services, there are a lot of different ways that we can help you kind of do that homework. And when you're starting to get into these numbers, you will probably start identifying areas where, okay, we should maybe focus on this agency because they purchase it way more often, or we should focus on this agency because they purchase it in smaller amounts that we can handle. That can be a little bit overwhelming to take on by yourself as a small business if it's a new if you're new to the area of government contracting. So between the public resources that we have available and between the special databases that we pay subscriptions for, we can basically help you figure out where should I start, where should I focus my energy. Cheryl is very correct when she says between all the different levels of government, they purchase basically everything. So if you're looking at a market where you know your product is going to be purchased by somebody, but you just don't know where to start, that's where the market research ahead of time can really, really help you narrow your focus and hopefully save you some time by not starting down a path that's not going to end up bearing any fruit for you. So one other thing I want to point out on this slide specifically about doing market research is there are a lot of good resources available to help you do not just market research on your potential customers, but do research on your competitors. So that last bit about knowing your competition and their contracts. You can look up historically awarded contracts and figure out who won them in the past, and that can give you a good idea of who your main competitor is going to be. And then one other piece of this that is really important is you can also use some of these databases where you will create your own profile for your small business. You can actually go in and view the profiles for your competitors and kind of see how they're marketing themselves. So these databases are a little bit confusing at first, but once you get comfortable navigating, there's actually a wealth of information, not just on potential customers at public agencies, but also can give you some tips on how to set up your business's profile as well. Let's go to the next slide. All right, so this slide is kind of intentionally set up to be a little confusing because most of the content on it is not actual words, it's just a bunch of acronyms. I'm not going to go through each of these certifications. We don't have nearly enough time, but one of the most common questions we get at the Apex Accelerator is, which certifications am I eligible for? How do I apply for them? What sort of paperwork do I need to have ready in order to apply for them? So if you're curious about what certifications you qualify for, and more specifically, how they help your business, because every agency, whether it's local agencies, state agencies, federal agencies, they all have goals of awarding contracts to certain types of businesses. So this is kind of just scratching the surface of everything that's available, and each one of these could be their own conversation by themselves. So just be aware that there are plenty of certifications out there that can help you narrow down your competition. And if you're not sure which ones you're eligible for, you can talk to Cheryl or our team at the Apex Accelerator, and we can walk you through those processes. Next slide, please. Okay, so Cheryl promised that I was going to talk about capability statements. So before I go into our upcoming events, I'm going to do a real quick spiel on capability statements. I didn't have a slide prepared for that, but it is an important component of any sort of networking event. So capability statement, in summary, basically, is a one-page synopsis of what your business does. So think of it as kind of a job resume. And when I say one page, sometimes we can go one page front and back, but certainly that would be the maximum we would recommend, especially for a networking event like this. But on your capability statement, you're going to have a lot of different sections with information related to what products and services you provide, what differentiators there are for your business. So in other words, what makes you stand out, or what do you do better than your competition? There should absolutely be a section on your past performance. So if you have past public agency experience and have done public contracts before, you should highlight that information. If you haven't had a public contract yet, but you've done the work in the private sector, maybe highlight a few examples of what you've done in the private sector. And then going back to another question that Cheryl fielded before, if you don't have either of those things, then you're going to want to rely heavily on what is the experience of your team. So let's say you just started the company a year ago, but you've got 3 or 4 people on your team that each have 10 plus years, then you really want to highlight, okay, as a team, we have 40 years of experience doing this type of work. We do a webinar on an ongoing basis, and I see Cheryl just linked to another one they have for capability statements. They are a very, very vital component to marketing, not just at these events, but following up, like Cheryl mentioned, after you meet folks at the event, you're going to want to follow up to remind them of the conversation. That's a good time to attach your capability statement again, etc. So capability statement, one page, basically resume for your company related to public contracting projects that you have worked on, and showing what your capabilities are and how you set yourself apart from your competition. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up real quickly. I want to just make sure everyone's aware that coming up in the next few weeks, starting in August, we're going to be doing some webinars. We do a monthly webinar called Are You Ready for Government Contracting? It's kind of a real broad view of just some things to consider before you jump in. And then starting on August 8th, we're going to be doing once a week a series of 3 cybersecurity webinars. And that will be presented by Mike Olivier on our team, who is our cybersecurity expert. And between those 3 webinars, you will learn probably more than you ever would have even dreamed of related to cybersecurity. Next slide. And we're getting very close to wrapping up here. We are active on social media, so if you use any of the social media channels you see on the slide, you can find us there. We post updates not just on upcoming things that we're doing, like upcoming events, but we will post news items related to government contracting. So if you're kind of a dork like me and follow that stuff, you're going to get any information about regulations and policy changes and certification process changes, like some of the major certifications are going through a bit of an adjustment right now. So we have all that information there. Next slide. I'm not going to focus on this. You'll get this content later. If you want to sign up to become a client, there's some links there on how you can do that. So let's go to the next slide. And that's a screenshot of our application. Just be aware that the SBDC and our Apex team and the Women's Business Center all use a similar client management system. So if you sign up with Cheryl at the SBDC and then we send you a link to ours and it looks exactly the same, unfortunately, you're going to have to go through that process again, because we all track our client data separately. Next slide, please. And we are at our questions, so I'm happy to answer anything. I went through that really quickly, so hopefully I didn't confuse anybody with all that information, but any questions I'm happy to take.
Thanks, Brett. Looks like we have one from Caesar. Do other agencies with most certifications take preference in bids over other competitors who don't but may have the technology or capacity to complete the contracts?
Okay, so there's a lot of ways to answer that question. Um, Yes, there are some agencies that give preference. Certainly, the state of California is a good example. If you have the small business certification through the state of California, they will have contracts that will be available only for those businesses, or there are also incentives for companies that have that certification located in the state of California if they're going up against a company that is located outside the state of California. On a federal level, the way the certifications work is basically every agency is given goals that they have to achieve every year in terms of what percentage of their contract dollars go to certain types of businesses. So the two most common and easiest examples to use are every agency has a goal of 5% to woman-owned small businesses at the federal level, and then every agency has a goal of 3% to service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses at the federal level. So in those cases, it's not necessarily a case of where a business will be given preference if they have that certification. It's more only those businesses that already have that certification will be able to go after that contract. So if an agency knows that they have a hard time meeting their woman-owned small business goals, they're going to plan out their procurements for the upcoming year saying, we need to figure out which of these purchases we can set aside for only woman-owned small businesses because we know we have that 5% goal and we know that historically we have a hard time meeting it. So they do a lot of homework as they're planning their procurements to set aside contracts for certain types of businesses in order to help them meet those goals. Hopefully that kind of answers the question.
Thank you, Brett. We have another one. Do we have an Apex in Los Angeles? My small business certification business is headquartered in Los Angeles.
Absolutely. And as soon as I wrap up here, I will put a link in the chat to exactly where you can go to find the LA County Apex. I almost called us our old name. Apologies.
Thank you, Brett. We're going to end with that question. Thank you again for being here and presenting. I would like to bring Gregory Miller out with DPAC to give you a brief overview of Caltrans Division of Procurement and Contracts, as well as give you insight on minor B contracts for SB DVBE, Small Business, Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise, Contract Advertising on Cali Procure, and top commodities purchased by Caltrans. Welcome, Gregory.
Well, good morning, everybody. Yes, my name is Gregory Miller. I am a branch chief here for the Caltrans in the Division of Procurement and Contracts. Not a lot of folks know about DPAC. They hear the name all the time, but they don't always understand what we do. The procurement and contracts, our job is basically its overview of training and of the purchase orders and purchasing that is being done by Caltrans, and making sure that the packages that are going through are all complete and compliant, ready to roll. What we also are in charter with a lot of the training for new buyers and making sure that folks are following the guidelines, rules, and what regulations that they have to. With that, the majority of our contact is really with our internal customers within Caltrans, which are the buyers, or the actual requesters, as we call them. One thing I like to reiterate is that Caltrans right now is the second largest department in the state. We have a little over 22,000 employees. And I venture to say about 18,000 of those people are capable or at some point in their career will do buying on behalf of Caltrans. So when you're out there focusing your attention, you've got a lot of opportunity in every single city, county out there, unincorporated area, to find folks to talk to about possibly doing business with the state. So you've got lots of opportunities. Next slide, please. So we as a group are genuinely excited to be in attendance at the fair. I was able to be there last year and absolutely fired up along with our division chief. And we're really looking forward to going back down there again. This year we're taking a little larger contingent. So scheduled to appear will be our division chief, actually the guy who runs the show here in DPAC, Mr. David Prismich. Can't miss him, nice tall gentleman, all you A&E people. That's the guy you're looking for. He will be running around. Also there will be Rajit Sharma. He's our Deputy Division Chief. He actually handles the IT procurement and contracts, non-IT procurements in the CalCard teams and all the associated work that they do. He's actually spent a number of years with us here in DPAC doing on the contract side for service contracts before he took his current role. So he is actually a font of knowledge of kind of how to get things done. Also in attendance will be Rob Jacoby. He is also the Branch B Chief for non-IT procurement. Just recently took on that role as a longtime analyst in the division, so a lot of folks know his name. And again, my name is Gregory Miller. I look forward to seeing all of you there. Actually, I got to stop for just a second and let you know, I have had a lot of sales in my career and gone through a number of sales training programs. That information that Cheryl Brown put out there was absolute gold. 110% elevator speech, have it at the ready, be able to break that out, have a card, information, QR code, something at the ready to talk to people about. If you are that prepared by being able to watch yourself on video and not cringe, really one of the best suggestions I've ever seen. So Cheryl, you know, I look forward. I've heard, this is the second time I've heard you present, and this absolute gold information for you folks out there who want to, you know, encourage more sales. So, you know, the better prepared you are to have those conversations, just to initiate a conversation, which is sometimes the most difficult thing to do, which is the single best thing about this event is that there are just hundreds of people out there that are available to talk to and get yourself in front of and say hi and give their name and contact information to work with you. So it's a good opportunity, and the more prepared you are, the better off you're going to be. It's just fact. Can we go to the next slide, please? All right. So today we're going to talk about basically minor B contracts and a little advertising. Through a little teaser in there, at the fair, we will have some QR codes and some information regarding the top 50 commodities purchased by Caltrans, and specific to District 11 as well. I know all you may or may not be aware, Caltrans itself is broken up in 12 different districts by geography to help direct, you know, each one of those districts has very, very different needs and requirements. There's 12 different geographic areas to work with, not as well as headquarters and such. The one thing that it never ceases to amaze me with Caltrans is the sheer volume of facilities that are out there. What they call maintenance stations or incorporation yards or actual offices and what have you. Every time the more I drive around the state of California, the more I go, hey, there's a sand house, or hey, there's a maintenance station at the base of the bridge. It's pretty incredible, the sheer volume of places. So if you think you don't have Caltrans near you, you're not right. It's there. You just need to find it, and that's what we're here to help with. So go ahead and go to the next one. So all of us know that the state of California does have requirements, or at least to be guidelines and goals, and they're shifting to requirements actually in that for DVB, for SB small business providers, we're looking to spend 25% of our dollars specifically with small business and 5% with disabled veteran business enterprises, the DVBE folks, right? So everybody knows about those, which is a great thing. So when we knew the laws were changing and it was to become more of a requirement, we actually got a challenge. Here in DPAC, our management came through and said, hey, what can Caltrans do to identify better ways of creating opportunities or showcasing opportunities or ensuring that small businesses have a better shot at finding new opportunities. And I got to give a big shout out to our folks in our service contracts teams and non-IT service contract teams. What they identified is that they identified a minor B contract as the simplest way for Caltrans, with the small changes that we can make on our side to really get the call out and make sure we get small business vendors up, because anybody can do $5,000 purchase, $10,000 purchase, those are fine and dandy, but a lot of these businesses they can't handle the $2 million or $3 million things, but they can handle smaller stuff, and they really need a better opportunity because they're not seeing them. So what they decided to do is they took the minor B contracts. Now, the minor B designation is unique to the California Department of Transportation. Minor B contracts do provide a method that allows work to be designed and reviewed quickly, that's completed in a few working days. It's kind of small, relatively, in area on the highway. The expenditure of funds is not significant or not substantial, as some folks might have to do. And sometimes it can be even managed simultaneously with major construction projects. So that's kind of a big thing for those contracts, and they identified that with those styles, we have an opportunity to instantly increase our small business participation. Now, if you are a small business or a DVBE interested in working on minor B contracts, you're encouraged to reach out to our district liaisons, and those can be found on the Caltrans website under the Office of Civil Rights. DSPL stands for District Small Business Liaison Contact List, which I'm sure all of you folks are fully aware of. These are good things. And if you're not, I suggest you go out there and find some of those folks, because they are a primary resource for the folks out in districts to help them find, identify small businesses and utilize them more. Can we go to the next slide, please? So again, here's the kind of the definition of a minor B contract. And again, when you start working with the state, they've got 1,000 different varieties of contracting that are available, and wading through that can be a little difficult to do. One of the things I truly love about working with Caltrans is how transparent we are. So if you actually go to the Caltrans website, dot.ca.gov, and look up contracting, working with, there's actually a link for working with the state, which will take you through a number of links and just a ton of information as far as what you can do to actively start to work with the state. As far as the definition for minor B contracts, again, it's all about working on the state right-of-way and with the state-owned properties. The big thing here is that all minor B contracts must have or deal with standard specifications and must meet the 2023 standard specs. And the maximum dollar amount is $461,000. So anything under that actually is a great opportunity, and a lot of small businesses can handle that figure. And that figure does get updated by the Department of Finance on what, even numbered years. So it can change on a consistent, regular basis. Can we go to the next screen? So again, the small business, the minor B contracts are, like I said, smaller in nature, smaller in scope. They do deal with specifications that already exist, which actually helps with speeding up the process of getting them awarded and determined. The one thing I like to point out on the landscaping and plant establishment, I missed a word there before I turned this in, is architectural landscaping. Landscaping is great because landscaping is you put a couple shrubberies in. Architectural landscaping is that it's landscaping with a purpose, and there's intent behind it. So instead of just getting two shrubberies, you actually have two shrubberies, only one slightly taller, so you have a little path running down the middle. That's kind of the idea of architectural landscaping. It's landscaping with a purpose and an overall intent, and an overall plant establishment. The traffic management systems, I always like that TMS and try to figure out what a traffic management system is. And basically, those are a series of smart sensors, beacons, cameras. They have loop detectors, little items that get buried in the roadway that have the cars pass over that. That this type of work is key to doing these types of contracts perform on a consistent, regular basis. So this is kind of what you expect to see with small business with the small business minor B contracts. Can we go on to the next one? Okay, so the cool thing about the solicitation process, all of the minor B contract solicitations are put onto Cal eProcure. It's obviously posted on the Caltrans website, and again, that's easy to find under Doing Business with Caltrans. And if you getting registered on our website is great and everything, so you get notifications of those items. But also, we determined that we're going to post all of the minor B contracts out on the web. Out to Cal eProcure, which again just increases opportunity and visibility for you folks out there with the small businesses. So can we go to the next one, please? Okay. So single best piece of advice we can give you. Now, I've done sales in my career, and I'm big on, I like making money, and I like going after money that I know that's out there, but I'm greedy. People will come up and ask all the time, how do I get Caltrans money? And I tell them, don't just get Caltrans money. Don't limit yourself to Caltrans. Work the state, because a lot of what we do at Caltrans is wrapped up with what the state is doing with the Department of General Services. So when I get that question, the first thing I tell people is get certified. You're going to go to caleprecure.ca.gov. I'm really looking forward to the presentation from DGS that's coming up behind me. as far as and having them show you what you could do with Cali Procure, which is something that I do every single day in my work and working with our buyers, our requesters that are out there and trying to purchase these things, is how to use this tool to get the information they need so that they can, make sure that they're spending state money as best as they possibly can. Obviously, with DGS, they're going to be looking at small businesses, micro businesses, which are, a nice little subset, which folks understand. There's a small business with public works, which actually helps you for public works project, and that, technically speaking, is anything that's on the right of way and is an improvement, alteration to a state-owned facility or property on the right of way. One thing I really like to point out is that when you do certify yourself, it's going to ask you for there's products and services that you offer or that you offer as a company, and they use those UNPSPSC designation, those codes, to determine that. It is crucial that you understand which one of those codes really suit what you do, and that you offer as many of them that you possibly can for services that you offer. So, next slide. And those UNSPSC codes become very important because you get notified. When folks actually create these contracts and set them up for bid, they are entering in those codes into Cali Procure, so that notifications will automatically go out to contractors who have those UNSPSC codes on there. Now, again, you could put 10,000 of them on there if you're so inclined. You're going to get a lot of stuff that doesn't apply to you. So you want to be very, judicious about, make sure you're putting those codes on there that actually fit what you do, so you get proper notifications. You're not sifting through a bunch of stuff that doesn't work, kind of like spam email. Yes, you can do it. Yeah, it's kind of fun to read sometimes, but you'd rather focus your attention on things that are actually going to work for you and your business. So as part of the process, not only getting certified, there are searches that you can do there as well. You can do past search. I'm not going to steal the nice man from DGS's thunder, because Josh has got his hands full with plenty of presentation time. And folks, these are great tools. So get yourself out there, get certified, so that you can get notified about what's going on. These are important things. Go to the next slide. Yeah, my intent today was really to keep things nice and short and sweet. I wanted to bring up the minor B contracts because that's something that kind of a little triumph that we like to put out there and let folks know that there is a specific group of contracts that you may be overlooking as an opportunity. Most importantly, we are extremely excited to come out and visit, answer your questions. So come by, say hi. David Prisnich will be there answering questions, and it's always fun listening to somebody who's leading a division to actually have a conversation about what they're doing, what they're not doing. And I'm really looking forward to being out there and answering questions and helping you folks do what we want to do, which is help you guys. We've got money to spend. We want to spread it out as much as we possibly can, and we want you folks to, be able to participate and possibly become our next favorite vendor. And this is what we do every day. We spend a lot of time, effort, and energy in training our requesters to include at least one, if not two, small business vendors in every solicitation that they do. And that day one, and that's a reminder that we push on a consistent, regular basis as well, because it's really important to spread the money out as much as we possibly can. So with that, we're really looking forward to seeing everybody in San Diego. We want you folks to come up, say hi. We'll have some handouts with some QR codes regarding commodity stuff. Feel free to send me, if there's something in particular you're looking for, feel free to say hi. We'll see what we can do. Any questions out there? Happy to answer them.
Thanks, Gregory, for sharing all those great tips with everyone. Looks like there is no questions, but I'm sure they will ask you at the Procurement and Resource Fair and talk with you and David. All right, so now I'd like to welcome Josh Kress with the Department of General Services to talk to us about a couple of the certifications Caltrans recognizes, the process to get those certifications, and its benefits. Hi, Josh. Welcome.
Hello. This is gonna be really easy. Like, everyone did all my presentation for the most part. So cool part is we're gonna get to probably get a little more granular. We'll probably spend more time in Q&A. So we're gonna fly through my slides and pick on the spots and different things that might not have been caught earlier. What I will tell you is all the presentations before, especially with SBDC, the Apex, REG, those are all great. They're all great advice, all things that I suggest when talking to small businesses, things like that. So let's move on. Next slide. And just about me real quick, I am a small business outreach liaison with Department of General Services. We are the procurement department for the state. So procurements ultimately come through us, but we're not doing all the purchasing. We have our own procurement people, just like corrections and everyone else. And so, that'll be something I'll kind of point on too. We have no hand in the process of selecting bidders, things like that. You're going to be still working with each department directly. Our focus and my focus here is talking about getting into Cali Procure and getting certified and the certifications. So kind of take a look. This is a key number. We are required legislatively by of all purchasing, 25% of it has to be done with small businesses. 3% have to be done with disabled business enterprise. Now they have to be certified, California certified small businesses and certified DVBEs. Let's go next slide. Kind of get into the numbers a little bit more. So this is an example from the 22-23 fiscal year. $4.15 billion, which was 25.45% of all contract dollars in 2022-23, was spent with certified small businesses. 878 million, or 5.38, so way over goal, was spent with DVBEs. So there's a lot of money being spent directly on certified businesses, and we'll get into what that really entails. So next slide. So our certifications that we have small business for purpose of public works, which we'll go in a little bit more next, and disabled veteran business enterprises. Next. So the benefits of being certified with this, with EGS, the state of California. So this is not DBE, remember, this is none of the local ones. This is just state certification, which you're going to do through Cali Procure. One of the big ones is there's a 5% bid preference for small businesses that are certified, up to $50,000. So up to $1 million contract, you can get a 5% advantage over businesses that are not certified. So if you came in at $1 million for a contract, and then another company that was not certified came in at $1 million, your bid would be worth $950,000 versus their $1 million. So you would be the lower bidder because of that advantage. There's also an up to 5% incentive for DVBEs. That is, it depends on the contract and some different things on how much of that percentage it'll be, but it's usually up to 5%, and those two are stackable. So if you're both certified SB and certified DVBE, then you actually can stack both of those percentages there, so you can have up to a 10% or $100,000 benefit as a bid preference. There are exclusive contract opportunities. There's sometimes contracts and solicitations that go out that are that require that is only being done with certified small business or certified DVBE. And then there's some other advantages to being certified with prompt payment, reciprocity partners, the locals. We have locals that will acknowledge our certification and their certification processes and fast track those certifications, which that can be found on our website as well. And then working with prime contractors, a lot of primes are looking for subs, and they're able to actually get the advantage from their subs. So if they use a certified small business as a sub, that sub's advantage goes towards the prime's total project bid. All right, next slide. All right, so the requirements for being a certified small business here in the state of California. You need to be independently owned and operated. not dominant in the field of your operation. So if you are a sole source provider of an item that nobody else can do, you're dominating the industry. That could make it to where you're no longer eligible as an SP for the advantage because you already hold dominance over the market. Principal office is located in California. The owners or officers of the corporation are domiciled in California. You have 100 or fewer employees, and your gross annual receipt, or you'll hear me say GARS, is less than 18 million, and that's including affiliates. So if you have other businesses and such, that goes into consideration as well into the total gross annual receipts. If you're a manufacturer, you can go with 100 or fewer employees, but no GARS cap. All right, next one. All right, small business for public works eligibility requirements. So it's the same requirements as an SB, except you can go up to 200 or fewer employees, and your GARS can be less than $43 million affiliates. So here's the deal. You do not want to get both. If you qualify for for a full-blown SB certification, you do that. You don't need to do the SBPW. The only time you want to do the SBPW is when your GARS or your employee counts go over the amounts and you are working on public works projects. You're a contractor, things like that. Otherwise, you're always going to want to get the small business certification. Do not get the SBPW. Do not double up. Just get that certification there. It muddies the waters otherwise. Unless you are over the 100 employees or 18 million, then you go into the public works one if you are doing public works projects. Next. All right. So kind of like I said, SBPW is only for public works, and SB is for everything. That's what you want, because sometimes there's work that's done. It's not considered a public works project, even though it's in the trades. Next. All right. DVB requirements. You have to be at least 10% service disabled, which is determined by the VA, not by us. So you have to be designated as 10% or more service disabled by the VA. The company has to be at least 51% owned by disabled veterans, or 100% if it's an LLC. The veteran owner or owners must reside in California. They must be the business can be managed and operated, or must be managed and operated by disabled veterans. But it could be different ones than the owners. So you have owners of the company that are disabled veterans that go in for the certification, but they do not manage the day-to-day operations. As long as it is also a disabled veteran managing the day-to-day, you can still get the certification. If it is non-disabled veteran running the day-to-day operations of the company, managing it and such, you will not qualify for the certification. And the headquarters of the company is in the United States. All right, next. All right, we're going to look at Cal eProcure because this is how you're going to get certified. So next slide. Greg showed some of this already. So we're going to go into more of the steps of it. So you're going to go to caleprocure.ca.gov, or you just Google Cal eProcure. That's how you go. Make sure it's .ca.gov. You're not going into an advertised site, things like that. There's a lot of companies trying to make you pay for free services. So you're just going to hit that login register button in the top right corner, and we'll go next. And then you'll see at the bottom, new bidder registration. So you're going to click that if it's your first time. You're going to fill that out. If you've already done it previously and you just haven't done the certification, you're going to just put in your user ID and password. If you forgot your password or need to reset it or change it, there's that I forgot my password button towards the bottom. All right, next. So again, there's that user ID password. Once let's say you created your account, you'll come back to this, or if you've already had one, you'll use that to log in. So we'll go to the next. All right. So this is what it looks like. You filled out your application or your registration for Cal eProcure. all Cal eProcure is going to ask for is your tax ID number. So like your EIN or social security number if you're a sole prop, um, things like that. It's going to ask for business address, your name, contact information, basic information to get you in here. And you can see that here in our on our screen. You know, there's the name on the left, the name of the company. If there's a DBA, it'll ask for that. Email, contact info. Boom, there you go. You're now in Cal eProcure. That's all it took to get in. You can search around. You can search even without being registered in there. But once you've set your account up and set up your UNSPSC codes, things like that, and keywords, you can do that for your account without doing your certification first. So you get to tool around in there. Then we want you to apply for your certification. That's the big one. And you'll see the button Get Started, or underneath under Certification, Apply for Certification. They both do the same thing. So let's go next. So it's going to go into this Get Certified screen that Greg showed already. Look at those steps. Look at all those bullet points. Go through each and every one. I highly recommend doing this with someone, unless you are really on your own. If you have someone who is an office manager, a partner, who does financials, anything like that, I highly recommend using a second person when you're doing this, just because sometimes you'll get stuck on one item and that different perspective will answer questions and take some of the mystery away. This is very simple in a lot of ways, but sometimes just not seeing a thing, missing one button, one word can really slow you down. And having a second set of eyes with you that knows both you, the company, and what needs to be done really helps. So going through this with that person that helps you is also really huge. We've got all the requirements spelled out in these links, as well as links to the keywords and UNSPSC codes, all that. So your next step is you're going to click that Get Certified, and you're going to apply or reapply. Once you've started it, you can't get out. Or you can't cancel it. You're going to have to go through the process and then apply, and you're either going to be rejected or accepted. So be ready. Go to that first requirements link, get all the documents that are needed. You know, it's going to be tax records. If you're a new company, that's okay. We're going to ask when you started business. So if you've not filed taxes yet because you've only been operating for one day, that's okay. You won't need it then. We'll get you on that when you re-up. You know, articles of incorporation if you are an LLC, tax ID verification letter, resale license. So all the things, really the way I put it is everything that you needed to set up a business account with a bank, you're going to want for this application. So I personally was a restaurant owner previously. I took a little break from state, actually was with Caltrans before, and I had always my file folder on my computer and then my hard copy file folder of all those docs that I needed for my bank account, because it seemed like I always needed to show one or all of those for something or another every time I opened account or, you know, program or things like that. So make sure you have all those things. And again, when you're thinking about it, look at what you needed to do we got the list there, but then look at what you've done for your bank account. You probably have a lot of the legwork already done. All right, next. Keywords and UNSPSC codes. So once you've done the certification, here's the deal. 80% of our approvals are automatic. You can find out within a couple hours, if not sooner. It's done by the system. As long as you upload all the documents that are needed, everything looks good, the system will give you an okay. For the 20% that don't get approved right off the bat, you'll get put in the queue with our certification unit. They're very helpful. It's about a 90-day period. Turnaround time on working on that. So that's why you want to make sure you have all your stuff lined up ahead of time. You're not just clicking buttons. And then you can go from there. They'll help you out and get there. But most of the time, if you have everything there and you're answering the questions correctly and you're just filling in the spaces, because it's just filling in the blanks, paying attention to the details when you're doing it, you'll get that approval. Once you get that approval, and when you're building out your certification profile, there's going to ask for keywords and UNSPSCs. You could put in one, you could put in two. That doesn't determine your certification. it just helps attach that to the certification so you get those notifications. You can always come back and edit your certification with these keywords in UNS PSCs. So you're not locked in. So let's say you use some that don't actually really apply to your business. You thought they did, but now looking at your competitors, you're like, oh no, this isn't right. Or you look at the bids that you're getting, and you're like, oh, this was wrong. I was a little off. You can go in and add and remove those codes. So keywords are exactly as they are. They're how you're going to be found within Cali Procure by purchasing analysts. Most time they're analysts. Sometimes people that are doing procurement throughout all the departments. They're using Cali Procure. They're searching with the search, and you're being found by keywords quite often. So when doing so, let's go to the next slide. I think I touched this a little bit on the next one. Yeah. Keywords describe the good or service such as concrete, environmental, or legal. Buyers find you through that search. You pick the keywords. Here are some pro tips. Our search is pretty dumb. So it doesn't identify the difference between plural and singular. They look for root of words, things like that. So, when you're talking concrete, or let's say goats. It's funny, Cheryl used goats. I use goats also. I thought it was always hilarious with Caltrans that we were doing that. So let's just use goats. You're going to put in goats at least as a keyword. I play safe and I tell people put in goat and goats, because if someone search goats and you only put goat, they're not going to find you. If you search goat and your keyword was goats, there's a good chance it's going to find it because the root's in there, but play it safe. There is no cost to using as many keywords that describes your goods and services. It's just like SEO. You just want to make sure it is actual goods and services that your business can do and represents you properly. You do not want to be misleading. That is not good. But you want to use all the keywords possible. If the sources are your friend, looking at other vendors within Cali Procure also really helps your competitors. You can see what keywords they're using as well as UNS PSC codes. All right, next. All right. So UNS PSC codes, United Nations Standard Products and Services Codes. It's a mouthful. It's an 8-digit number. It identifies a good or service, not an industry. So it is more granular than that. And it is used for Cali Procure system notifications. So when contract managers are putting out solicitations, they are listing the UNS PSC codes that would fall under this those goods or services. So you've got to make sure that you've got those in there. If there is a solicitation that matches your code that you've got on there, you're going to get a system notification from us stating that there is a solicitation that has your code listed on there. Take a look. All right, next. So here's some examples. Paper materials and products is a level 1 hierarchy. You can see those first 2 levels. Level 2, paper materials and products, paper products. So going a little more focused. That's going into the 3rd and 4th digits. 5th and 6th digits, that level 3 is paper products, business use, print, and writing paper. So you go there, and then level 4, those last, that 7th and 8th digit is printer or copier paper. So depending on, you definitely want to capture, the specific ones at that level 4. You really want to be operating in the level 3 and 4. 1 and 2 is usually too general. You probably won't find a lot of solicitations going that general as well, just because it's gonna ping too many vendors. So you want to make sure that you're going into that 3rd and 4th level, being as precise as you can. The lookup, there is a lookup when you're doing your application for certification. You can actually look up those codes. There's a link to the website within the process as well. Same with keywords. It's a part of the certification application process. And then also in your profile, which you would go in and you can edit your certification when certified. All right, next one. All right. I'm gonna skip this FAQ Q&A because we're gonna do it towards the end. All right, finding contract opportunities. So we have what's called the CSCR, California State Contracts Register. So you can, these are the publicly advertised competitive bid solicitations. Bid solicitations, or they're just called solicitations, really, are available to qualifying business, are available to qualifying businesses, sorry. So what happens is you are going to be able to search within CalEProcure all of the solicitations that are out there, and you can get a little more granular in your search. Let's go to the next screen. I believe I've got an example. Starts looking at. So right on the front page, you're not even logged in. You don't even need to be logged in to do so, but you can also, while you're in CalEProcure, while you're logged in, is the Start Search button. It says it right there. That's CSCR. Next slide, please. So again, we have that exact same button when you're already logged in as well. You can see here too, this is an example of an account that has a certification. You'll see the View My Public Certification profile and Manage Certification blue hyperlinks kind of in the middle area, lower middle area. That Manage Certifications where you're going to update keywords and codes and things like that on your certification after the fact. Next slide. So these are examples of solicitations that you're finding in the CSCR. I'm not sure what the search was, but it's going to show the event ID. That's just an identifier for the solicitation. You'll see who it's from, the end date, the status, and there's a few more other columns that pop up. You're even able to, let's say there's a ton and you want to kind of sift them, or you like operating within Excel, you can download the sheet and you can actually get more information. Let's go to the next slide. So when you click into it, this gives you the details. This is the key. So when you see a solicitation, you're not bugging us. Don't bug us. We're not going to be able to help you. We want to help you. We really do. But we just don't have that ability. You'll see the contact information there on the right-hand side. That's the person who created the solicitation. They're going to be the contract manager most likely. They have the information on what it's asking for. You're going to see the View Event Package button on the top right. So you can totally look at everything, all the documents attached to it, scope of work, things like that. Post vendor ads and view vendor ads. So you can post an ad, let's say you're a sub that can view the work as the sub work that's in there. And so you can put an ad up for a prime. If you're a prime and you need subs for some of that work, you can post an ad looking for a prime for a sub. And then you can also just look at those ads that have been posted. You'll see the license types that are needed. If it's a construction, if it requires a contractor license, it shows you all the information that has to do with that solicitation. Remember, it is your contact is the person on that contact information. Be very be prudent in your communication with them. Go through everything first. Answer your own questions. Make sure you've gone through every bit before you're reaching out to this person. You don't want to be just asking them all of the simple questions that are already there and posted. That's a bad actor. Just don't want to be on anyone's bad side. You're wasting a lot of their time because they put all their time into this solicitation package in the first place. All right, next one. All right, so this is an example of what it looks like to post a vendor ad. We'll go in, and you can see the prime seeking sub and the sub seeking prime. And that's exactly what it means. All right, next one. This is what one looks like. So again, when you look into the solicitations, you can see that. So sometimes, jobs are so big that subs are needed, primes, or you're a prime, or you're a sub that you don't see a prime on there, you want to put it up there. So if a prime doesn't have some subs for services, they can look at those ads. It's another way to market yourself, to get yourself in on a solicitation. If it's too big for you, but you can do portions of the work. All right, next. Because remember, they can utilize your advantage. All right, so one of the big things of being small business certified is there's the advocacy program. every department has to have an advocate if they spend more than $100,000 a year. I believe that's every single department, but technically, as long as they spend $100,000 or more, they have to have a small business advocate. They live in the procurement purchasing world for their department. Sometimes it's a manager, sometimes it's an analyst. They're who you're going to be reaching out to. Next up. See if it goes into further. Okay, cool. Roles and responsibilities of that advocate. They help certified businesses contract with their department. So they're looking for subs, or they're looking for vendors for purchasing analysts. So sometimes, if I'm looking to buy something, I'll reach out to a small business advocate going, hey, I'm buying this. Did you have any small businesses that have reached out to you that kind of fit this bill, things like that? That's where your capability statements come in. These are the people that you're sending your capability statements to, with your history and everything else. So that way, they know what you have. And so if somebody on the inside is looking for a vendor, they go, oh yeah, I saw this company. This is one I would definitely look at. They're small business certified. Having that certification on your capability statement is massive for that reason as well. So they're going to assist businesses on the prompt payment process, things like that. They're going to help the buyers use certified businesses. And I've got an example of why that's really important. And then they're also going to sometimes seek out new certified businesses. So there's a requirement also that now in the bidding process, new small business certified bidders have to be used. So a purchasing analyst can't use the same 3 companies over and over and over. That is now a requirement that they have to always bring a new bidder. So these advocates' jobs are very important because they're trying to find some bidders in some commonly purchased items, so they can keep that mix up because it slows the process down otherwise. Next. So when you're contacting an advocate, have your contact information, certification ID number, what you do, and this capability statement. So, kind of like a cover letter is your email, introducing yourself, what you do, things like that. Identifying your certification number, that should also be on your capability statement. All your certifications should, especially when you're reaching out to departments that might have some federal dollars tied to some of their projects, to where there is actually a DBE component possibly. So getting all your certifications that you have, especially at the federal and state level, will be very helpful. Next. So this is the example of the advocate directory. So I literally just tell people Google OSDS, or you can go DGS if you don't remember, small business advocates. And that's really all you need. State of California, small business advocates, DGS. Those are kind of the keywords you want to use. It'll get you to this advocacy, to the page with a lot more information. And up top is the link to this directory. Cool part is you're going to see the yellow highlighted departments are departments that have a small business first policy. That means their priority is working with certified small businesses first, and bids must have that, and there needs to be an exemption otherwise. We also identify with an X in that column for construction, the departments that have construction projects also that are utilizing contractors' licenses and such. Next. So resources, small business development centers. It's abundantly clear how helpful they are. Apex accelerators, SCORE groups that they do business mentorship. Those 3 are very key. Something that I wish I knew about when I had my business. And they're really the ones that are going to help you navigate Cali Procure, maybe work on your keywords and your UNSPSC codes, things like that can really help you hone what you're doing. It's really easy to get certified. It's really easy to get into Cali Procure. The work is making sure you have all your keywords, making sure you have your UNSPSC codes correct, working with these SBDCs and accelerators to do so. Next. All right, So that kind of summarizes it up. It's, our presentation normally is an hour to hour and a half. I kind of really had to truncate this. So this was cursory. We'll be at the event also, so keep that in mind. Myself and two of my coworkers, so there'll be plenty of us that also answer questions, but I'm ready for Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. We have a few questions. First one from Elizabeth. She asks, should all construction firms doing public works projects get both small business and public works certifications?
No. If you qualify for the SB certification, get that. Don't need to get the PW. It actually, it's not of service to you. Get the small business cert. It's only when you can no longer qualify. If you grew, let's say you started getting contracts and you grew out of reach for the standard small business certification, that's when you go for the PW.
Awesome, thank you. Next one is, where and how can we view our codes and edit them in Cali Procure?
Okay, so I kind of saw that while I was presenting and I pointed it out a little bit. When you're certified, you'll see that manage certification button and you'll be able to jump in there. It's really, I hate to make it sound so simple because it is in a way. The system's pretty simple and intuitive. There's just so much on there. So navigating and kind of searching through. So keep an eye on hyperlinks. You're not going to break things clicking through and looking at what things are doing. They're really, it's, you won't break stuff until you start hitting submit and saves. Otherwise, you can go through there. But yeah, the manage certifications, how you would update your codes and keywords.
Awesome. Next, is it possible to search for specifically DVBE opportunities?
Yes. So, yes. There will be a checkbox for both small business or DVBE if there's a requirement for that. You'll be able to look at that that way. But quite often there's not as many DVBE only opportunities, and I highly suggest not filtering just at that because you're really missing out on a lot of opportunities where solicitations are you're going to get your advantage over non-DVBE vendors already. So I would not hone it down that much, but there is an identification and a filter. If it was a requirement for that, you can find that. And you can look at all of them, ones that are or aren't. But again, kind of like what Greg said, do not limit yourself when looking at solicitations. It's kind of like when doing job applications for the state. I tell people, look at everything out there. Start throwing keywords and seeing there's classifications for everything, and you might find something you didn't know about.
Sweet. Just letting everybody know, we did put the advocate link in the chat if you'd like to open that up. And in addition, I've seen a few questions, but the recording will be sent out to everyone who has registered for this event. So please look out for that in the upcoming days. We might not be able to send it by the end of the day today, but look for it soon.
And if you go like to that link to advocates and you just kind of backtrack through our sites, you'll see we've got longer versions of this presentation and ones for after being certified that go into codes and such further. You'll see our events calendar as well, which you'll see webinars that we're doing in conjunction with SBDCs and Apex accelerators and others that you can join that are free to where you can get more information. There's a plethora of information out there to help you do this on your own without much guidance. Again, the hardest part, getting your docs together.
Thank you. One last question. Can we sell our green product? Ronali, you might have to explain what that is. Can we sell our green product without first being on the specs list? We have all of our certifications for both state and federal.
So no, that's going to be a solicitation by solicitation requirement. So, it depends if it's a solicitation for like chemicals or something and there is a green requirement. That's that again, that's going to be something that you would contact the contract manager on the solicitation directly. It's not a state of California. It's not a DGS in the means of certification in Cal eProcure requirement. and it's not something that we flag by, that's going to be in the solicitations themselves with those requirements. Depending on the department, there's a lot of different things with that.
Okay, great. I think that was our last question. Thank you, Josh, for sharing valuable information with everyone. Now I would like to bring Jennifer Baker from Caltrans Office of Civil Rights to talk to us about another certification Caltrans recognizes, its advantages, requirements, and best practices. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Hello, everybody. My name is Jennifer Baker. I am the manager of the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Unit with Caltrans, and we're going to be talking about all things DBE related today. Let's start with the next slide. So today we'll be learning about the DBE program overview, the benefits of certification, the eligibility requirements, and some FAQs and resources. Next slide. So what is a DBE? A disadvantaged business enterprise, also known as a DBE, is a for-profit small business concern where socially and economically disadvantaged individuals or individual owns at least a 51% interest and also has control management and daily business operations. Next slide. With the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, it's a legislatively mandated program implemented by the states as a condition of receiving federal funds via the Federal Highway Administration, also known as FHWA, and the Federal Transportation Administration, FTA. They're the ones who oversee the program for their respective areas. Next slide. So the objectives of the DBE program are to ensure non-discrimination in the award and administration of USDOT assisted contracts, to also create a level playing field on which DBEs can compete fairly, to ensure that the department's DBE program is narrowly tailored in accordance with applicable law, to ensure that firms meet eligibility standards in the Code of Federal Regulations, 49 CFR Part 26, and also for ACDBE Part 23. Next slide. So the benefits of DBE certification is that DBE and ACDBE certifications are recognized by subrecipient local agencies in California. It expands opportunities to participate on federally funded contracts. You can become accessible to the prime contractors needing to fulfill DBE participation goal requirements. You're listed on the official CUCP database. It increases opportunities to network at events such as procurement fairs and pre-bid meetings. Next slide. We also, okay. So the California Unified Certification Program is known as the CUCP, which is a collection of certifying agencies throughout California. Next slide. As mandated by the US DOT, California's Unified Certification Program, like I was just saying, it's an agreement between multiple certifying agencies in California. This provides a public database to find DBEs, and you can also view a competitor's profile information as well on that website. And the regulations, if you want to check that out, is in 49 CFR Part 26.81 of how every state needs to have a unified certification program. Next slide. So there's several CUCP certifying agencies in California. I'll just go through the acronym. Caltrans, that's us. We service the whole state of California. Then you get into the locations by the area that you are domiciled in. So there's BART, City of Fresno, City of Los Angeles, LA Metro, SFMTA, SamTrans, SGCRAA, SFO, and VTA. Next slide, please. And now we're going to go over the DBE eligibility requirements. Next slide. So this is an overview of the rules and regulations of DBE certification. You must be a socially and economically disadvantaged individual or individuals that make up 51% or more of majority ownership. You have to have ownership in the firm. You have to have control in the firm. You have to be independent and not dependent on another firm for profit. Your personal net worth has to be cap maximum 2.047 million per owner that make up 51%. And you have to be a business size as defined by the Small Business Administration, SBA. Next slide. So these ethnicities make up social and economic disadvantage: Asian Pacific, African American, Hispanic, Native American, Subcontinent Asian, and women as a whole. If you are not in one of the 6 groups that has a presumption of social and economic disadvantage, you may still be eligible for DBE certification. And you would want to refer to the regulations 49 CFR part 26.67D, where you would write a personal narrative of how and why you have been subjected to discrimination. Next slide. So for ownership of a firm to be a DBE, the firm must be at least 51% owned by socially and economically disadvantaged individuals or an individual. Next slide, please. For control, the 51% owner or owners must be able to have the ability and power to make decisions on management, policy, and operations. Next slide. For independence, only an independent business may be certified as a DBE, and you should not be relying on other firms for profit. Next slide, please. The personal net worth, the 51% majority owner or owners must not exceed a P&W of 2.047 million each. There may be some cases which an individual whose P&W is less than 2.047 million may not be regarded as economically disadvantaged, and that you'd want to refer to 49 CFR part 26.67. That is a case-by-case basis, and it also depends on what other financials come into play. Next slide, please. So the business size is a 5-year average gross receipts that cannot exceed 30, actually it's 30.72 million now. That has just been updated since the new rules went into effect May 9th. So 5-year average gross receipts, 30.72 million. And it varies by industry. So if you do have a NAICS code that is less than that for the cap, you will need to refer to that that cap size on that NAICS code. Next slide, please. Now we're going to get into applying for DBE certification and our website and things like that. So next slide, please. The application process overview. When we first get an application, it's assigned to a certification analyst. The analyst conducts a review for missing documentation and requests further clarification if needed. Then a site visit is scheduled and conducted. A site visit will be virtual. We do not do physical on-site interviews anymore unless we need to for reasons of construction on a job or something like that. And then the analyst conducts a final review for eligibility recommendation, and the certification is determination completed and a letter, an approval or denial letter, is mailed out via the email. Next slide, please. And so our website, the californiaucp.dbesystem.com, will take you to the website, and this is how you apply for DBE certification. You can see on the bottom all the different certifying agencies, the UCP members. You'd want to go to the area that you're closest to in the jurisdiction that you're in to complete the certification for the DBE. Next slide. So you start with the Caltrans website, then click on Programs, and under that you'll click on Civil Rights, and then Certification, and then find a certifying agency. Next slide, please. Then the online certification screen will populate, and you'll click on Show Details. And then under that, it will ask you if your firm is located in the Northern California area. If it is, you click on California Department of Transportation, and then you click on Apply for Certification, or if you're already certified, you click on Renew Certification. Then the online certification screen will populate, and you click on Create an Account if your firm is not certified yet. Next slide, please. So to create an online certification account, you put in the tax ID, the business information, the contact information, and the company contact person. Every firm that wants to apply for certification needs to create an account first, and then they can apply after that. Next slide, please. So some key reminders: complete your application within 90 days. So what that means is you can opt to save your application at the spot that you're in, get out of the DBE portal, and go back in. So you have 90 days to have access to that application once you start it. Make sure the application declaration of eligibility is signed. Upload the required documents, and you can use this direct link to access our system, which is caltrans.dbesystem.com. Next slide, please. And some frequently asked questions that come up often. Next slide. Is there a fee for applying? No, there's not a fee to apply for DBE certification. If by chance you're using old forms, like for the personal net worth and for the declaration, you may have old forms that require a notarization. If you do have new forms, they do not require any notarization at all. But if you have the old forms, those two forms are ones that are requiring notarization. Can I mail my application? No, at this time they are to be submitted online at caltrans.dbesystem.com. How long does it take to get a response after I submit my application? After we receive your application and all the complete and necessary paperwork, it can take up to a month to notify the firm of where we are in the process. Next slide, please. And here are some resources that we have put in. So we have Monday through Friday, we have an analyst of the day, which they answer questions from 916-324-1700. Or you can email our office at dbe.certification@dot.ca.gov. And also a link to the DBE program, the US DOT DBE program, as well as the federal FHWA information. Next slide. Okay, so we are ready for questions now.
Okay, I think we have two quick questions. The first one is, how long after the virtual site visit does it take to receive the final DBE certification?
So that depends on the analyst workload, it usually can take up to a month, but we have 90 days once we've deemed an application is complete and we start the process from there. We have 90 days to complete everything and give you your letter. So it depends on when the process gets started, but it is a 90-day turnaround time frame.
Thank you. And one last question. Floyd asks, how long is the DBE certification good for?
It is good forever unless the DBE, unless the firm exceeds any size standards or exceeds a personal net worth, or if there's some kind of complaint investigation and it's deemed that they're ineligible. That's on a case-by-case basis. So if you haven't exceeded those issues, then it just keeps going forever. But we do request a annual declaration be sent, as well as the firm's gross receipt amount every year on the anniversary of the DBE.
Thank you, Jennifer, for sharing such beneficial information. Finally, I would like to introduce you all to Caltrans District 11's Administration Resources Coordinator, Laura Hill, to explain to you all our procurement processes. Welcome, Laura. Happy that you're here.
Hello, thank you, Rebecca, and good morning. I'm Laura Hill. I'm a Caltrans analyst here in the Administration Division at District 11 in San Diego. I'm going to review the procurement process that we as purchasers have to follow prior to making any purchase. My goal is to provide you with more insight into the process that purchasers have to follow before we can make a purchase. Next slide. After determining the need to procure goods, we must follow a sequence to see if the items we intend to purchase is available within state service. We are required to procure print services and products, as well as business cards through the Department of General Services. Before reaching out to request price quotes, we first have to check with Caltrans warehouse. So that would be our district warehouse, second, the Sacramento Materials and Stores warehouse. Then we check for surplus property, usually furniture. We'll check with the Department of General Services surplus property and Caltrans surplus property. Next would be the California Prison Industry Authority. And then we would have to check any leveraged procurement agreements. Next, we would then do DGS, certified small business, micro business. No, it's still there, that slide, thank you. And disabled veteran business enterprises. We would utilize the small business DVBE option solicitation package for that type of purchase. And for competitive suppliers, we'd utilize the less than 10,000 or up to 50,000 solicitation package. Next slide. Caltrans utilizes different methods for entering into a service agreement for something other than architectural and engineering services. Invitation, we start with an invitation for bid. It's one of the most common methods. Then we also do requests for proposals to solicit consultant expertise. We also do requests for qualifications for purchases between 10,000 and 50,000. Non-competitive bid, when no known competition exists, the department can fully justify the need. We do an invitation for price quote, streamlined process where we contract with Department of General Services, certified small businesses, micro businesses, and disabled veteran business enterprises. AB 1574 aims to expand the pool of certified small business and DVBE participating in state contracts. Then we also have service agreements under 10,000 U10. A U10 is utilized when the dollar amount of the service is estimated to be less than the advertising threshold threshold of $10,000. In response to Assembly Bill AB 1574 issued in March 2023, all invitations for bids and requests for proposals for services will be posted to the state of California's e-procurement system, Cal eProcure, to expand the pool of California certified small business and DVBE firms participating in the state contracts. Next slide. We do solicitation packages and non-IT procurement methods. One is for less than 10,000 solicitation package that would require 2 quotes would be requested. Then our small business DVBE option solicitation package. Dollar limits are 5,000 to 250,000 for goods and services, or 388,000 for non-IT public works. A minimum of 2 quotes must be received from 2 Department of General Services certified small businesses or 2 DGS certified DVBEs. Next slide. A very popular payment mechanism is the Cal card, which is our Visa card. The Cal card program is an alternative payment mechanism the department utilizes to acquire goods and services from suppliers. The single purchase limit for the Cal card is $9,999.99 per transaction. Caltrans Cal card service agreements that are less than $10,000, the CCSA is not valid if the agreement amount exceeds the threshold of $9,999, including all applicable taxes, and the terms and if the term is more than 2 years in duration. Next slide. Taxes. The state does not pay federal tax on purchases, only state sales tax and or use tax. Taxes are assessed based upon where the products are physically received. The latest California sales and use tax rate charts by county can be found at the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, and they have their website listed here. We listed it here. And fees and surcharges. The CalCard contract prohibits payments of late payment penalties, late charges, service fees, credit card fees, or handling fees, or any other fee that does not result in a direct value to the state. Next slide. Non-IT procurement methods for CalCard. These are the documents we are required to have on file for our Caltrans transactions. Most of these documents are also required for all purchases, not just CalCard. We're required to have the payee data record and CalCard certifications. If the business is not already in our internal database, we need the California seller's permit. We need a proof of small business or DVBE certification issued by DGS if applicable. We also need the tax delinquency status, California regulatory notice register, recycled content certification, commercially useful function certification form. We also we need the executive order N522 economic sanctions against Russia and Russian entities and individuals. We also are required to use or have vendors fill out an executive ordered generative artificial intelligence completion of the STD 1000 form. We need DARF Contracting Act for services. And then we also have 2 or more price quotes for DGS certified small business DVBEs. And finally, we would need itemized invoice, sales receipt stating date and invoice number. Next slide. Information technology procurement. Information technology purchases refer to any hardware, software, or services that interface or are connected to the Caltrans network. The Information Technology, Procurement, and Contracts Department is responsible for processing IT purchases of goods and services. When we need to make an IT purchase, we must submit a justification to the IT department. The IT department reviews the state contracts index listing to see if we're required to make this purchase through a mandatory leverage procurement agreement or LPA. If the item or service is not sold through a mandated LPA, it can be purchased from a small business or DVBE or preferred method or our preferred method. After receiving IT approvals, we may then proceed to purchase using the procurement method already discussed, including CalCard. Next slide. We as purchasers work with the Division of Procurement and Contracts to add the vendors to the fiscal vendor database. To purchase from a selected vendor, the vendor must be listed in the vendor table in the department's financial system, AMS Advantage. If not, the vendor must complete the payee data record, STD 204, and the CalCard certification form, ADM 3026. The primary business name or doing business as DBA must be the same name appearing on any price quotes, estimates, or proposals, invoices and receipts, and the charge entry in the Visa statement of accounts. We cannot purchase from a vendor with different business names appearing in the payee data record, quotes, or invoice and statement of account entries. Next slide. These are qualifying regulations that we actually have to check as well. Small business and or DVBE certifications must be verified using the Department of General Services procurement system. So we check Cali Procure. Our vendors can submit or can provide us with the SB small business or DVBE certification, or we can look them up through the Cali Procure portal located in the Department of General Services webpage. The vendor must provide the seller's permit number, which will be used to verify vendor's California seller's permit using the Board of Equalization website. We do check that. We will go into the we will go into this website once we have the permit number. Purchasers need to ensure the individual or entity we are conducting business with has not been determined to be a target of economic sanctions while such sanctions are in effect. We run the business name through the Office of Foreign Assets Control search portal at this link right here that is provided. We also check the following website to verify the vendor's tax delinquency status. We'll check the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration and then the California Franchise Tax Board. And another is the purchaser. We check the California Regulatory Notice Register to find the non-discrimination, ineligibility, and exceptions for contractors. Per the California Regulatory Notice Register, any employer who wishes to contract with the state for goods is subject to the provisions of Government Code Section 12990 relating to discrimination in employment. This means that contractors and subcontractors ensure that the evaluation and treatment of their employees and applicants for employment are free of discrimination and harassment. This requirement is not applicable to credit card purchases of $2,500 or less. The total amount of exemption authorized cannot exceed $7,500 per year for each company from which we are purchasing goods by credit card. Contractors that do not meet the provisions of GC 12990 are not eligible to contract with the state for goods. Next slide. Cal Recycle goals. The state legislature has mandated that state agencies purchase goods and materials from 16 product categories as listed in the Cal Recycle webpage. At least 75% of the total reportable purchases shall contain post-consumer recycled content material, and we're required to report such purchases to Cal Recycle yearly. The vendor needs to complete the recycled content certification form for all goods purchased. Next slide. Sorry, I couldn't read the slide. It's small for me. Commercially useful functions in accordance with the GC section 14837 and MMVC section 999. All small business and DVBE contractors, subcontractors, and suppliers that bid on or participate in a state contract, regardless of whether it is verbal or written solicitation and or paid for using the CalCard as a pay method, must perform a CUF review. This requirement intends to ensure the businesses we are procuring from is a legitimate small business or disabled veterans business enterprise, as opposed to other entities trying to pass for a small business or DVBE. And again, the vendor must complete the commercially useful function certification form. Next slide. GenAI disclosure and fact sheet form STD 1000. Purchasers have to follow the Division of Procurement and Contracts policy and processes on implementation of new solicitations and contract requirements for GenAI per the Department of General Services. We received a new bulletin for this yesterday, and there are commodity types that are exempt from this requirement, such as office, medical, and cleaning supplies, office furniture, and non-IT hardware. Your procurement agent will work with vendors and determine whether a GenAI form will be required for each purchase. But please note that except for exempt transactions for all acquisition types, IT, non-IT goods, non-IT services, regardless of acquisition method, a GenAI reporting and facts sheet form STD 1000 must be completed. Failure to submit the GenAI reporting and fact sheet STD 1000 will result in disqualification of the bidder, offerer, or contractor. Next slide. I reviewed the procurement processing, starting with the acquisition sequence, our contract methods, the solicitation packages and non-IT procurement methods, CalCard procurement method, information technology procurement. I reviewed the payee data record and CalCard certification. I went over the qualifying regulations, our Cal Recycle goals, the commercially useful functions, and our Gen AI disclosure and fact sheet STD 1000. Thank you. This concludes the procurement process. Please let us know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Laura. I think we have two questions. First one is the purchase amount referring to the total product and service cost or just the service cost? For example, 10,000 to 50,000, how much is the service and how much is going to the product itself?
Ooh. That is a good question that I would actually have to look up unless,
I think Greg
yeah, I was going to
raised
say
his hand. If you can go ahead and unmute Greg.
Yeah. Is the purchase amount referring to the total product and service cost or just the service cost? General rule of thumb, if there are services involved in an acquisition, you're gonna want to break that out for a couple of reasons. There are some rules about the dollar amount that can be used as far as for services. For non-IT procurement, at least with Caltrans, non-IT procurement, the maximum dollar amount you can have for incidental services or labor is the $9,999.99. So That can be a determining factor whether you'll be able to use a non-IT goods procurement method or if you have to go to a service contract. But general rule of thumb, the advice that we give our requesters when they actually solicit out to vendors is to get the labor or incidental services split out separately so that you can see exactly what they are being requested to do and what the dollar amount is involved.
Awesome.
Hope that answers it.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
We have another one from Jill. How can we look up the products that are included on contract vehicles?
I normally only do purchasing for equipment. I don't do for vehicles, so we'd have to look into this and get back to you with an answer.
Thanks, Laura. Jill, feel free to email your question to our small business email. I'll have somebody put it in the chat here in a second. Oh, she says not cars, but contracts. How can we look up the products that are included on the contracts? I think she meant to say.
I believe whenever they're posted through for bids, then it is something that they do put out for contracts in is it Cali? Gregory, please help.
This question comes up a lot, actually. And I'm kind of stealing some thunder from Josh for DGS because Cali Procure is a multifunctional tool. You can actually use that. One of the quick links they have at the very top center is you can search for contracts, statewide contracts that the state has. On the DGS website, there is actually, if you go in and you put in LPAs or statewide contracts, there's a search tool that they have available where you can literally pull up every single one. It's a massive spreadsheet as far as the products that are available on a leveraged procurement agreement. And it ranges everything from, I don't know, ammunition, guardrail, helicopters. It's pretty impressive the things that there are statewide contracts for that every department is going to have different needs and different things that they buy a lot of. So the easy thing is you can do a keyword search for contracts on Cali Procure, or you can go to the DGS website and actually pull up the full list and, button up, get your coffee and a bowl of popcorn and be there for a while looking for stuff. So.
Thank you.
Okay, one last question. And maybe we just need to clarify some things on this question. It says, we are registered on Cali Procure. Do we need to register also on Caltrans? Do you want to answer that one, Laura?
No, I believe we just go through Cali Procure. There's nothing internally for Caltrans. We just make sure that you're in our database system, and that is what we go through with Cali Procure, and we check small business certifications.
Thank you, Laura, for sharing all this useful information to help the audience understand the procurement process. Maria Barra had mentioned earlier that the Caltrans Construction Mentor Protege Program and the Cal Mentor Protege Program here at D11. Please note that the Cal Mentor Protege Program is specifically for small architectural and engineering firms in public transportation projects in the San Diego region. The D11 Cal Mentor Protege Program will begin accepting applications for the next cycle around September 2025. The Construction Mentor Protege Program application is currently open, and the next cycle will begin around January, February of 2025. Thank you all for joining us today, and a special thanks to all our guest speakers, Cheryl Brown, Brett Householder, Gregory Miller, Josh Kress, Jennifer Baker, and Laura Hill for taking the time to present such beneficial information to our audience. And to our audience, before you exit today's session, you'll be prompted upon exit with a brief 2-minute survey about today's event. Please take the time to complete this survey to tell us how we can better improve future Prepare for the Fair workshops. Next slide, please. Oh, never mind. Thanks, Michaela. Remember, we are just less than a month away from our 20th annual Procurement and Resource Fair. Register today by scanning the QR code with your cell phone. And a reminder, again, we will be sending this presentation to you. Next slide, please. Join our How to Do Business workshop to learn how to get certified for Caltrans projects, build on state solicitations, discover upcoming opportunities, and much more. The next workshop will be held on August 29th at 10 a.m. To register, simply scan the QR code with your cell phone. Next slide. Lastly, we're excited to announce our Certification Day event, which will provide valuable information on small business SB, disabled veteran business enterprise DVBE, and disadvantaged business enterprise DBE certifications. If you're interested in attending, please sign up in person at one of the tables mentioned on the flyer at the Procurement and Resource Fair on August 14, 2024. This flyer and all other events mentioned today will also be shared along with the presentation. If after today you feel that you would benefit from a conversation with our small business team, you can schedule a free 30-minute, yes, I said free 30-minute one-on-one meeting with either Michaela or myself by emailing d11.smallbusiness@dot.ca.gov. Thank you all again for joining us today and enjoy the remainder of your day. Thanks, everyone. We will email you this presentation, so look out in your email inbox.
Thanks, District 11.
Thank
Yay!
you. Good job, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you.